Let's look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the last couple of days throughout the first two episodes of our mock offseason, we've really focused on the Detroit Lions retaining a lot of their talent, right? What players aren't necessarily going to be the best fit for the team anymore, how to clear up cap space in order to return a lot of last year's playmakers and a lot of last year's superstars back to the Detroit Lions roster to make sure they don't regress in 2023, right? Keep around the guys that helped you reach that 9-8 record and keep around the guys that are going to be beneficial for your roster in the future. But today we're going to get to the fun part of the offseason. We're going to get to the free agents. We're going to get to the mock draft, and we are going to get to the additions that are going to take the Detroit Lions from 9-8 to 10-7 to 11-6 to 12-5. And we're going to talk about the guys that are going to help the Detroit Lions not only fight for the playoffs, but fight for the division and hopefully fight for a chance to play in a Super Bowl. So with that being said, today we're going to take a look at free agency. We're going to look at some of the guys that are on the free agent market that are likely not to be re-signed by their teams and guys that are going to potentially help the Detroit Lions improve next year and put them in that competition for the division and the league. So with all that being said, let's get off and let's get started with the first free agent to talk about, and that is Aziz Al-Shair, the linebacker from the San Francisco 49ers. Now, Aziz Al-Shair missed a large part of the season due to a knee injury that kept him out just about 2 months, kept him out 6 to 7 games of the NFL season. So if you look at his statistics, he really didn't have that great of a year statistically. And of course, being on the 49ers, he is often overshadowed by guys like Dre Greenlaw and of course Fred Warner, who are looked at as the best linebacking duo in the NFL. But Aziz Al-Shair really gets swept under the rug and really isn't talked about all that much in the elite linebacker tier like his 49er teammates. But Aziz Al-Shair is somebody that, despite having just 42% of snaps this year, was very effective, and in his last full season at linebacker produced a really high-level season of 102 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, 5 passes defended, and an interception. He's somebody that flies around to the football, reads the game incredibly well, tackles very well, has an incredibly low missed tackle percentage in the NFL, and somebody that just, despite being overshadowed, despite being the third best linebacker on his team, is probably up there with some of the top linebackers in the NFL. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that Aziz Al-Shair is a top 20 linebacker that is probably going to go for something that's not top 20 linebacker worthy. Now, his market value as of right now is about $4.5 million a year, and I think that is a bargain for Aziz Al-Shair, somebody that is so productive at linebacker, that is so impactful to the game of football, somebody that can be brought in to boost your linebacker room for $4.5 million. I think the Lions should sign him 2 years, a 2-year, $9 million contract to get a young, athletic player, a playmaker, somebody that is a leader, somebody that has a little bit of a chip on their shoulder to come in and prove that they can be a linebacker one in a defense. It makes a lot of sense from both sides of the ball, both for the Lions and for Aziz Al-Shair to come together in Detroit. Now, I don't think the Lions are done at linebacker. I think linebacker is going to be the one position they really try to attack heavily in this year's free agency class. So just like last year with tight ends and just like last year with a few other positions, I would not be surprised if the Lions double up in free agency and go after 2 players at the same position. The second linebacker I think the Lions could look to target would be Devin Bush, the former top 10 pick out of the University of Michigan. Now, Devin Bush last year got a lot of hate, and for the last couple of years there's been a lot of speculation of, oh, he wasn't worth the pick, he was kind of a bust, he really isn't playing at the highest level and isn't really playing at a level you would expect for a top 10 pick going in to their 4th season. And this year, I wouldn't say he had a great year, but certainly wouldn't say he had a down year. Having 81 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 passes defended, Devin Bush missed just a single tackle a year ago and really is a very good tackler. He's young, he's athletic, and right now his market value is roughly $2 million a year. If you give Kelvin Shepherd, a former top 10 pick, an absolute athletic star at linebacker, and you try to get Kelvin Shepherd to fix some of his mechanics, get him to see the field a little bit better, because admittedly, he does struggle in coverage and isn't necessarily the greatest coverage linebacker at this point, but you go out and you get a guy that can fly to the football, a guy that makes sure tackles, a guy that has been very productive in the NFL. His rookie season was probably his best, where he had over 100 tackles and just forced turnovers and had big plays, and he's shown the ability to do that in the NFL. So give him a linebacker coach like Kelvin Shepherd, let him mold a guy like Devin Bush into potentially a very good linebacker, and at the very worst, you have a special teams player that gives a lot of effort, and at the best case, you find a cheap starting linebacker in the NFL for just $2 million a season. Now, sticking with the defensive side of the ball, I don't think the Lions are done, and I think the Lions will address a lot of defense in this free agency market, as there's not a whole lot much to add on offense. Now, James Bradberry is the next player I think the Lions should go after, and I think this is going to be the DJ Chark or the Tyrell Williams of this year, right? Kind of the bigger name, bigger contract free agent, somebody that gets a larger money for a one-year deal to come to Detroit and be a superstar. Now, James Bradberry this season has played at an elite level and deservedly was named to the second team All-Pro after allowing just 39 completions on 86 targets for 382 yards and just allowing 2 touchdowns. He would easily come into Detroit and be a cornerback one, very much like he was with the Carolina Panthers and very much like he was with the New York Giants before they officially released him. He is a very good cornerback. Right now, he's playing cornerback 2 for the Eagles, but that's because Darius Slay is a true all-pro number 1 corner. If the Lions could bring in James Bradberry and he's even half as efficient as he was this season, that would be a great value for the Detroit Lions. Currently valued at a market value of $9 million a year, I think that's exactly what the Detroit Lions should look to give him. Give him a $9 million contract over 1 year, put some incentives in there, and have a number 1 cornerback going into the 2023 season to take down Justin Jefferson, to take down some of the elite wide receivers on the Detroit Lions schedule, and allow Jeff Okudah to be a cornerback 2. Even allow Jeff Okudah to be a nickel cornerback or a cornerback 3 if you have the ability to do so, because as of right now, he hasn't shown the ability to be a number 1 starting cornerback in the NFL consistently. So getting that guy, I think, is one of the most important pieces of this offseason. And where you have some guys like Marcus Peters, you have some other older veterans, I think James Bradberry is going to be the best combination of efficiency as well as price to come into the Detroit Lions and really make a difference impacting the secondary. Now, again, I don't think the Lions are quite done at secondary just yet, as I believe another free agent target could be a cornerback from Atlanta. A former second-round pick by the name of Isaiah Oliver is somebody that very much fits the Detroit Lions profile from defensive backs. He's big, he's long, he's a former top pick that didn't quite work out with another football team, and even last year, not having the best year, he allowed a 69% completion percentage for just 267 yards and 0 touchdowns. Now, he did only play in 11 games as he did struggle with some injury concerns. However, he is somebody that has a lot of physical gifts. His arms are incredibly long, and he has a lot of physical traits that you would like to see in a cornerback 1, and being drafted with the 58th overall pick by the Atlanta Falcons a few years ago, he was expected to step in and be that cornerback 1 immediately. Now, unfortunately, things really haven't worked out in Atlanta. He hasn't been that elite corner, hasn't turned into that number 1 or even that number 2 boundary guy, but bringing him in and letting him work with Aaron Glenn, who over his time in Detroit has really shown the ability to help defensive backs improve, help defensive backs get better. Guys like Jeff Okudah, Amani Oruwariye, Tracy Walker, Will Harris, Jerry Jacobs have all shown significant improvement under Aaron Glenn versus where they were prior or where they were in the NFL prior to his arrival in Detroit. And I think that he could do the same thing for Isaiah Oliver, help mold this young, talented, very traitsy player into a potential cornerback 1, into a potential cornerback or a potential boundary cornerback. And even if it doesn't work out, you have him there as a cornerback 3, you have him there as a cornerback 4 for just about $2 million of value, which isn't a whole lot of money for a guy with the kind of upside that Isaiah Oliver has. Now, the last player I want to talk about isn't really a defensive member, but is more of a member of the offense. the Lions' running game was pretty good a season ago. They ran about 2,000 team rushing yards, and for the most part, they were pretty good. They complemented the offense extremely well, but if the Lions are lacking one thing on the offensive side of the ball at the running game, it would be explosiveness. They don't really have a home run hitter. They don't really have a guy that could take the ball to the house on any given play. And I think that's an element that they could add this season with a player like Justice Hill. Justice Hill is a former 5th-round pick by the Baltimore Ravens out of Oklahoma State University. He's somebody that had a big-time speed, had big-time home run ability, and really hasn't been utilized very well in the NFL. He's been overshadowed by guys like Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and some of the other running backs to come through Baltimore throughout the past couple of years, despite having a 5-yard per carry average over the last 2 years and having legit home run speed. He's never really been a featured back with the Baltimore Ravens, and I would be highly skeptical if he wanted to return to that situation and if the Ravens truly wanted to pay him any money to come back and be, at best, their running back 3 with Lamar Jackson also having a very big role in the running game. But the Lions, they have an opening. DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams are likely returning, but Justin Jackson is not. Craig Reynolds is not guaranteed, and Jamar Jefferson hasn't really shown anything special at the running back position. If the Lions want to go out and get a home run hitter, a guy that averages 5 yards a carry in the NFL over the last 2 years, has home run speed, and put him behind a really good top run blocking offensive line in the NFL, all for a market value of $1 million a year, I see no reason why the Lions couldn't add an explosive weapon to the offense. No reason the Detroit Lions could not add somebody like Justice Hill and add that home run, big play element to their rushing attack to go along with the big play wide receivers, to go along with the top offensive line in the NFL, to go along with all the weapons that they have. And obviously Justice Hill is not going to be a featured running back, right? Obviously Justice Hill is not going to be a number 1 or a number 2 running back, but he could come in and be a rotational guy, take the snaps that Justin Jackson was getting, take the snaps that Craig Reynolds has been getting 2 years ago, right? And be that guy that gets, 5-6 carries a game, or if injuries pile up, you can kind of give 5, 10, 15 even touches a game, but somebody that for any given play could break off a big play, for any given play could take it to the house and really benefit the Lions rushing attack and up that yards per carry, up that explosiveness, and really just give another dimension to the Lions offense. So with that being said, those are really the 5 free agents I think the Lions should go out and really take a look at this year. 4 on defense and 1 on offense. And you might say that's a very small free agency class, but last year the Lions went out and they only signed 7 free agents on the open market, and only 5 of them ended up actually making the active roster. So they haven't been very, open. They haven't been very spendy in free agency over the last couple of years, and I don't expect that to change. I don't think Brad Holmes is going to give out massive contracts. I don't think he's going to sign Daron Payne to a 3-year, $15 million a year over 3 years, right? I don't think they're going to sign these big name guys to big name contracts, but I think they're going to be very smart with their money. They're going to sign the undervalued guys. They're going to sign the guys that can be role players and contributors and not superstars. And they're going to go into the NFL draft having a few holes filled, right? Having less hole at linebacker, having less holes at the secondary, and really having the ability to draft best player available, as well as maybe clean up a few last holes to make this roster truly complete. So with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about all of this? What do you think about the free agents, and what free agents would you want the Detroit Lions to sign moving forward? I'd be very curious to you guys think. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions.